Rudy kind of sneaked up on him. And it does surprise a lot of people that Rudy is running as strong as he is in a state like South Carolina, which is very conservative.
That, of course, our old friend Lee Bandy, one of the sagest observers of politics in South Carolina, has been doing it for a long time. And the Rudy of whom he was speaking, of course, is Rudy Giuliani, and the person he sneaked up on is John McCain. And that is reflected in a freshly minted poll just out today from our old friend Whit Ayers. Let's take a look at the numbers that are reflected in that poll that show John McCain now ahead in South Carolina, 25%, but that is down from earlier polls in terms of his lead in this state. Rudy Giuliani now at 20, Fred Thompson and Newt Gingrich, two as yet undeclared candidates next, and then Mitt Romney all the way down at 8. Now, why is the Mitt Romney number 8 surprising? Let's take a look at the South Carolina name recognition in terms of the number of percentage of the voters down here who have heard of these candidates. As you can see, Giuliani and McCain are nearly everybody's heard of them. Newt Gingrich is similarly as well. But Mitt Romney, who is a relative unknown when all this started, has got his name recognition because of advertising in this state all the way up to 87%. That puts him ahead of Fred Thompson, who, despite his television career, only has 70% recognition in the state. And yet, Romney remains behind candidates lesser known than he is, and two of whom already who are not even declared. Some thoughts on all this now from Fred Barnes, executive editor of the Weekly Standard, who joins me here, as well Bill Salmon, senior White House correspondent of the Washington Examiner, and from back in Washington, Mara Liasson, national political correspondent of National Public Radio, Fox News contributors all. Let's start with the McCain-Giuliani horse race, such as it is. Mara, any thoughts on how it is that that Giuliani has gained ground here on McCain? I mean, yeah, has gained ground here on McCain when McCain seemed to be doing so much better here?
Look, I still think that McCain is probably the real front runner in South Carolina. McCain has been working the state very, very hard. Giuliani's only made a couple of trips. And I think that the Giuliani phenomenon is showing up in this poll just like it is showing up nationally among Republicans, where he is ahead of McCain in almost all the national polls. And I think even in some of the other early primary polls. I don't think people have started to focus. What's puzzling to me is if one of the reasons why Romney suggested maybe it's his religion, people have focused enough on Romney to know that. I don't think that they've yet focused on Giuliani to think about all the other ways that he is completely different from the typical South Carolina voter, a Republican voter.
No, you look, here we're in a state where we speak as it's an early primary, probably be the first Southern primary, though they're squabbling with Florida right now about who's going to come first in the South. So I think they paid a lot of attention to these candidates, but I do think that they have paid a lot more to Rudy Giuliani recently because he's gotten so much attention nationally over his stand on abortion.
I know, but that doesn't seem to have hurt him.
But I think it's going to. You know, you don't get these reactions immediately. I think you'll see that McCain probably gains some and Rudy loses some. Look, this isn't the final word. There's going to be a lot more to go on in this campaign, including a debate tomorrow night.
As for Romney not doing as well in terms of actually support, I mean, he's obviously doing better in terms of name recognition.
He spent a fair amount of money here, as you can see. The number of people know who he is.
Yeah, his first block of sort of statewide ads were launched here in South Carolina. They're on for several weeks. They're off. They're back on. I think they may be down now. He's doing some national cable buys. I talked to Romney's people today about this to get them to try to explain this. They said, look, obviously it'd be better if they were getting more support, but the process of getting your name out there, the first step is getting people to recognize your name. That's not necessarily the same thing as knowing what you've done. I mean, I think people recognize Rudy Giuliani's name, and they also know something that he's accomplished, and mainly his leadership in the wake of 9/11. People know John McCain. He campaigned here before. He ran here before, and they know something about him. So I think it's a process. We've got 8 months before the first contest, and I think once they get to know a little bit more about Romney, I think at least their hope is that he'll move up.
Mara, let me just bring you in on that. Your thoughts on that, on why it is that Mitt Romney, who's got people to recognize him at least, can't seem to get any traction?
You know, it's puzzling. I mean, why would Rudy Giuliani, somebody whose views are so liberal compared to the typical Republican South Carolina voter, be at the top of the heap, and Romney, who has, you know, now changed his views to become much more in line with that kind of voter, is not? I mean, maybe it's his Mormon religion. If there's anywhere where you would expect that to hurt him, it is in South Carolina. But look, I think this debate is very, very important for all the reasons we're just discussing. People are going to hear a lot about Giuliani and abortion. They're going to hear a lot about the Confederate flag. They're going to hear a lot about issues that are of particular interest to South Carolina Republicans, and I wouldn't be surprised if you see some kind of sorting out in these polls after tomorrow night.
You know, I can tell you why Rudy's running ahead of Mitt Romney. He's a national hero, or at least was after 9/11, and Romney's not. Look, Romney, we ought to learn a lesson from this too, Britt, and that is, who is the leading money raiser among Republican candidates? Mitt Romney. Money does not equal support. They're two very different things. You can raise a ton of money, as he has as a former businessman and investment banker, and it doesn't mean he has support. There's something holding voters back, though.
His success is not limited to money. He was widely seen to have won the first debate. He wins straw polls. I think the guy is for real, and to count him out at this stage of the game, I think would be a big mistake.
Okay, panel, pause for a moment here.